officially afternoon. I want to thank everyone for coming today. Just a few brief comments before we get to our lunch. I think it's safe to say that with some of the events that have taken place here in the last few days, it makes us think about empathy. And I think it's important that we think about empathy because empathy is a cornerstone of ethics. And if we cannot empathize, we cannot bring ethics into our day-to-day work. We want to make sure that we are talking and acting in a manner that is ethical in the one place where we spend a third of our time, and that's at work. So just a brief thought, and our thoughts go out to those folks. So I ask everyone to keep in mind there's bigger and better things for us to be concerned with, but be thankful. We want to make sure that our personal behavior leads into the proper behavior that we run our companies with and act with at our companies. So today marks the 17th year of our awards program. Very excited that it's come this far, and we've honored some wonderful, wonderful companies. We are proud of their commitment and thank them for their commitment, and we thank you for your commitment for joining us here today. I especially want to thank Aiken Gump and SMU, Timberland Advertising Institute, for being our presenting sponsors this year. This is, well, Aiken Gump has been our sponsor for several years now, and we're very happy with that partnership. And we welcome all of our guests to enjoy this luncheon and this meeting, and we will start the program in 15 minutes. Thank you all. While you're finishing your lunch, we're going to go ahead and get started with our program. Quick reminder, if you have one of these, please put it on silent or vibrate. You don't want to be that person. But while you're finishing your lunch, we will begin our program. They'll begin bringing your food out in just a moment. I'm sure you've noticed we've had a change in venue for the first time in a long time. We are not at the West End, and we are here, and we're very happy to be here, and we're thankful to Bill Wallace and Success North Dallas for helping us come to this venue, and I want to thank him and thank Success North Dallas for that. I think everyone would agree it's a little more intimate, and I think it's a very nice venue. So thank you to them, and thank you to Prestonwood. And I realized I just stood up here and started talking and did not introduce myself. My name is Michael Webb. I'm the chairman of the Greater Dallas Business Ethics Award. I'm very happy to welcome you all here today, and thankful that you decided to come help honor these companies with us this afternoon. Former Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart said, "Ethics is knowing the difference between what is right to do and what you have the right to do." And when you think about that, it can really open a lot of thought processes, but having the right to do something and doing something are two different things. The Greater Dallas Business Ethics Award honors those companies that exhibit that type of behavior, where ethical conduct is not just a show, but an integral part of their culture. The awards were begun in 2000 by the local Society for Financial Service Professionals and are now run by the newly formed North Texas Ethics Association, which is a Texas nonprofit. We have a new board of directors, which I'd like to take just a moment to introduce. I'm not going to ask them to stand, but I would like them to be recognized. Joanne Brummett, formerly of the Carley Company, is a board member and a former winner. Kenneth Sibley, formerly with Clifton Larson Allen. Martinella Dryberg with Austin College Posey Leadership Institute. Kelly Fullman, the Disney Institute. Ellie Hansen with Regeneration Partners, a former winner as well. Bertrand Pelletier with All Star Industries. Hal Rose with Morphosis. Raymond Turbany, formerly with Squire Patton Boggs, Sharon Venable, Steve Watson of Stanton Chase, and myself. And we are pleased to bring you this program, and we are hopefully going to bring you more programs throughout the year. But I would like you all to give a round of applause for our new board of directors. And of course, the steering committee works very hard to put this together. They're noted in your program, so please take a look, and then you see a name, thank them. Our judges are also recognized in the program, and you may have seen our student judges with the yellow tags on. Be sure and thank them for their work. You'll hear a little bit more about that process in a few moments. Through all the companies that have won in Dallas, there have been more than 30. And 9 of those companies have gone on to win the American Business Ethics Award. So that's more companies than any other program, local program, has fostered. So we can be very proud here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area of how many companies have gone on from winning this to the national program. So with that said, I would like to take the opportunity to introduce our sponsor, Aiken Gump. We're appreciative of our ongoing partnership with them, and as part of that partnership, I would like to give Scott Bernard, managing partner in charge of the Dallas office, the opportunity to address you and introduce our speaker.
Thank you so much, Michael. It's a pleasure being here today representing Aiken Gump and co-sponsoring the 16th Annual Greater Dallas Business Ethics Awards. It's also my pleasure to introduce our speaker today. Former Dallas Mayor, U.S. Senate candidate, distinguished business leader, and White House Fellow Tom Leppert is the recipient of the Torch of Conscience Award from the American Jewish Congress, the Russell H. Perry Enterprise Award from Dallas Baptist University, the Distinguished Business Leader Award from the Dallas chapter of the Texas Association of Business. He was also named Business Person of the Year finalist by Dallas Business Journal and CEO of the Year by D Magazine. He has led large companies in 5 different industries. His experience includes the CEO of the Turner Corporation, CEO of the education giant Kaplan, and the mayor of Dallas, of course, from 2007 to 2011. While mayor, he donated his salary to a scholarship fund for students with low-income families. And he's also credited with developing an ethics plan to modernize the city's campaign finance disclosure system. We are very lucky to have Tom here today. Please join me in welcoming Tom Leppert.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Please feel free to go ahead and eat. I used to speak to the city council all the time, so I know what it is for people not to listen to you. Appreciate that introduction, and it's a pleasure to be with you. I want to offer my congratulations to Darryl and Archive for their contributions and what they've done. That was a very kind introduction, and I appreciate it. I also, though, understand what you're probably thinking. Led companies in 5 different industries, mayor, et cetera. You're thinking either this guy can't hold a job or he is very, very old. Now, full confession, I've used that line before. Unfortunately, about a month ago, my daughter told me that I was going to be a grandfather. So that has a little different implications, not quite that whimsical line that I thought it was. Well, ethics really do have implications. Laura, my wife, and I, about a month ago, had a chance to be with White House Fellows at the Nixon Library. And we heard a number of different former staff members to the president, Ben Stein and others, talked about the accomplishments of the Nixon administration. And they were significant. I would argue probably more significant than any administration in the modern era. But nobody remembers those. They only remember the ethical lapse of Watergate. And today you look around and you literally see our world being changed in front of our eyes by ethical lapses. You look at South Korea. South Korea, the president, under a cloud of misuse of power, resigned and now is indicted. That may very well put a president in office in South Korea that is no longer friendly to the United States, and that comes at a time when tensions with the North are probably their highest level they've ever been. You look at France, the leading presidential candidate, was eliminated largely because of payment to family. That may open up a candidate coming in that opposes their entry in the European Union. That could literally cause the collapse of the entire European Union. And you look at Brazil. Brazil, both from a business and a governmental standpoint, has had numerous lapses. It's put that economy in an inflationary environment. It's created world trade chaos and has allowed a number of our adversaries to get a foothold in South America that they never had. You can also look closer to home. Just recently, the national security advisor to our president, left under a cloud of inappropriate contacts with foreign governments. That's put the agenda of the administration back at least months. You also look around and see on the corporate pages, Wells Fargo, the firing of 5,000 people from the top and all the way to the down to the bottom. And then you look at institutions that we always prized. Journalism, which we always thought was the pillar of democracy. Now, I don't know if you watched election night coverage, but you heard people talk about the election as hell and nightmare. And you literally had the international correspondent in tears trying to rationalize the election. That put together things like Brian Williams, I think explains the point. But you also see it a lot closer to home. I know I've seen it. Back in 2006, when I first got in the race for mayor, almost nobody gave me a chance to win. In fact, we did a poll. That poll of name awareness turned out to be 0. We tried to round it up to 1%, but it was truly 0. The early favorite in that race is in federal prison, serving an 18-year term for misusing votes. I had the privilege of attending Harvard, and then I joined a firm by the name of McKinsey, probably one of the most well-respected firms anywhere in the world. There's an individual that graduated with me from Harvard that year, went on to join McKinsey at the same time I did, and we were fortunate to both be elected early into partnership at the same time. Next year, that individual will get out of federal prison after a 14-year term as a leader of one of the largest corporate frauds ever. What I'd like to do over the next couple of minutes is kind of relate some thoughts and perspectives on ethics that have developed over my time, both on the public and the private sector. You may even think of them as lessons. There's really 4. One is assuming that the people around you seek or have high ethical standards to follow. Second is ethics need to be viewed from a broader context. Not just the steps we go through, but a broad context, the big picture. Third, ethics are established. They begin and end at the top. And fourth, ethics without purpose, without a foundation, have no meaning. Now, while we all understand that we live in a fallen world, I always felt and assumed that leaders, both on the public side and on the private side, had a commitment to high ethical standards. And then I came to City Hall, and I found that reality was far from the case. When I first got there, I was surprised to learn that there were almost no standards. There were no standards for gifts that could be received, no disclosure of any type of gifts or payments that were made, and interestingly enough, no disclosures on lobbying. So I crafted a pretty comprehensive package. Now, it wasn't radical by any means. It probably fits somewhere in the middle of states and cities across the nation. And so I introduced this. And then my education began. Now, everybody on the council, they were for ethics. There was no question about that. Publicly. But privately, they did everything they could to stop it. In fact, they learned how government works. The goal was not to oppose it, but simply delay it. Well, we came to the day when I actually had it on the agenda. And I realized that morning that I was one vote short. I wasn't going to get there. And so I went into one council member's office. And somewhere between pleading and cajoling, talked her in to changing her vote, to let it go forward. I also learned that the other way that you can stop things is just throw amendments on. In fact, we had 24 amendments, more than I think any proposal has ever had at City Hall. But I didn't let it stop. We literally went through like a legislative session, each one of those. And to the credit of the majority of the city council, all of those failed. We got nearly done at lunch, but we weren't quite done. We took a recess. That member that I had talked into changing the vote came to me at lunch, and she was in tears. She said, "I'm sorry, but I've endured 3 hours for another council member calling me a liar and telling me 4-letter words under her breath. I've got to change my vote." Well, unbeknownst to the opposition, there was one other member that had voted against me in the morning, voted for delay. And she changed her vote. So when we came back, surely enough, there was a motion to delay. This other individual moved, and in fact, we went forward. And that's how we end up with ethics. And I can tell you, I understand how important they are. Because later that time, we dealt with an issue called Love Field concession. These are hundreds of millions of dollars of stores leases at Love Field. We were building a new terminal. We had a number of council people that wanted to have one person who was the incumbent. Not surprisingly, who was very close, shall we say cozy, to a lot of the council, was going to give that individual a no-bid contract for the next 18 years. We had made enormous progress at City Hall. I actually felt that people saw that we understood that it was their money, not ours. And losing that, to me, would be the epitome of a failed fiduciary policy. Now, thankfully, we move forward. Today, you go to Love Field, and it's probably one of the best performing mid-sized airports. That's in stark contrast to what we used to see with one of the worst performing concessions at any airport in the nation. And we also see this when you look at a national level too. You look at Congress. Today, Congress has pensions and health care that nobody in this room has, nobody in America has. No one. But when was the last time one of them said anything, much less introduced a bill that changed those pensions and those health cares so that it reflected you and I? Ethics is understanding who you serve. Second, ethics need to be viewed from the big picture, that broader context. It's not just the individual steps that you do. It's how it all comes together. I do a little bit of lecturing at SMU. And after a course last summer, the professor announced that the next guest speaker was going to be a gentleman named Andy Fastow. So I asked him if I could join in and kind of sit in the back of the room a couple weeks hence. He said, sure. It was fascinating. Andy Fastow, to remind you, was the CFO of a company by the name of Enron. Now, when he got up there and spoke, he took personal responsibility, said it was my fault. I understand that. But then he proceeded to go through transaction after transaction, demonstrating that each and every one met accounting standards, was approved by the outside auditors, and had the consent of the entire board. The problem with that is that's not what the cumulative effect was. He held up a trophy that he had won 6 months before his indictment as the #1 CFO in the nation. And then he held up his prison card. His comment, I've got both of these for doing the exact same things. And we see it locally too. Today in the paper, there's an awful lot being talked about the pensions, fire and police here in the city of Dallas. Well, that pension board was allowed to vote themselves additional members on board, beneficiaries. They were allowed to approve programs. They were allowed to approve different investments. The cumulative effect, however, is $3.5 billion that has been lost, not unfunded. The city of Dallas paid every single penny at one of the highest rates in the nation. By uneconomical programs, bad investments, and investment fees that went through the roof will all cost families some degree of their future. That's what I mean. Ethics isn't a question of doing each step right. It's being able to step back and say, are we doing what's right? Third, I've learned that no matter what the process, no matter what you put in place, ethics begin and end at the top. I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of great executives. Jack Lowe's a great example of that. I put Joel Allison, who ended up Baylor Healthcare. When Joel walked the halls of that hospital, everybody understood the type of person Joel was. His spiritual character and his commitment to that institution came through by what he did, not what he said. Another great example is David Walls. David is the CEO of Austin Industries, a large contractor that's based here in Dallas. You will never hear David talk and begin with returns or any of the sort of things like that. David talks about what he sees as the organization, not just today, but long into the future. Those gentlemen are what I call servant leaders. They understand that fundamentally their role is to serve. And that's very different than what you see in most circumstances across the world. It's that servant leader that makes a difference. That's what's critical in understanding that it starts at the top. And without that focus on the top and the signals that it sends, there's no ethical contact. It simply doesn't work. And fourth, it is absolutely critical to understand that ethics in the end have to have a purpose. They have to have a grounding. Those executives I just mentioned, they understand who they are. It's all about identity. I've seen so many people, public sector and private sector, who they believe their identity is the title that they hold. Now, I've been privileged to have a lot of great titles. CEO, Mayor, White House Fellow, Janitor. None of those are who I am. Identity determines everything, because if you believe your identity is a position, then you do things to hold on to your position. If you believe your identity goes beyond that, then that's the way you live your life. For me, a much better description has always been child of God than it is any descriptor title that you might have. Titles are fleeting, they go away. Character does not. And that's why purpose is absolutely critical. I'm always amazed, and I'm sure that you've seen it too. Managers will put together objectives. And objective number one is a profit target. That's always been strange to me, because the profits aren't means and ends. It's only a result of delivering value. Wells Fargo is a terrific example of this. They lost sight of the fact that their real business, the reason that that franchise was over 100 years old, was because they delivered value to their customers. Instead, they became myopic. All of their goals turned inward, and instead they focused simply on measurements. Measurements that started adding accounts, etc., that had no value for the customer. And I've seen it up close. I was involved with a company that several years before that had a major ethical lapse. Gave an enormous black eye and cost the business an awful lot. And what you saw in the leadership then was leadership that was reactive, not proactive. That saw themselves as managers, not as leaders of organizations. David Walls, the gentleman I mentioned to you, he will tell you that the ethical standards of Austin are based around safety, because he sees that as a moral obligation. It gives a foundation. It gives understanding, it gives purpose to everything that Austin does. It's a foundation that's built on rock, that's not built on sand. And today's world is becoming much, much more difficult. We live in a world where relativism is really the key phrase today. Now, relativism is pretty simple. It means that everything's relative. There's no truth. That what you see as truth is just as acceptable as what I might see as truth. And truth is just based on observations and experiences. It's very difficult for society to seek truth when it doesn't believe that truth exists. I think probably the best example of that, of an entity that is based on strong principles, that has a purpose, is right here. It's our country. G.K. Chesterton was a British writer, and he made an interesting observation. He said, America is the only country that's ever been founded on a creed. He went back and looked at the Egyptians and the Pharaohs and the Greeks, the Byzantines, all the way to the Ottoman Empire, the British Empire. All those are based on either power or land. We're the first society that's ever been based on a creed. And that creed is equality, the inherent value and worth of an individual. Now, if you believe that, then you don't have kings and you don't have emperors. You have people that serve. And that becomes democracy. But our founding fathers also understood a second fact. That second fact is that you can't have democracy without morality. And that morality for us, for over 200 years, has been based on fundamental Judeo-Christian principles. Truths that are not subject to individual opinion, but truths that have guided our country for well over 2 centuries. And that's what the challenge becomes. It's a challenge for our country, but ethics is also a challenge for individuals. President Bush once said that all investment is faith, and faith is earned by integrity. Capitalism can't exist without conscience, and there is no wealth without character. I saw that several years ago. I had a call when I was at Turner from one of our senior executives. I picked up the phone, and his first words were, "We have a problem." Okay, what's the problem? He went through detailing that years before I had ever gotten there, we, like a lot of competitors in the industry, and one was under investigation by the Justice Department now, had handled billings on federal government jobs in a certain way. That way was fraudulent. And a judgment against could very well take away license to all federal jobs, which then could impact a large part of the business. Now, that other competitor decided that the best course for them was to lawyer up and fight. We did something different. I called an outside counsel and gave them free rein to come in and investigate everything that we did, everything that we had done that related to any going like this that involved insurance. They not only looked at the billing of those old situations, and the people who had been involved were long gone, but they also looked at everything that we did today. The attorney happened to later become the head of the SEC. And she came back to me and said, "You're wrong. It's very clear." And I told her that she needed to take the study and go to the Justice Department and lay it all out. And that I would be there when it happened. In her words, she had never seen the Justice Department so surprised in the world. We paid a hefty fine. But the signal that sent to our organization that we were interested in doing the right thing from the top, that we had purpose, and that what we were doing was foundationally correct, had enormous impact. Not to mention from a business standpoint. We didn't deal with all the depositions, we didn't deal with all the litigation. We solved it and went forward. And that's the challenge each and every one of you. It's not those times, as my mother said, when people are watching. It's what you do when people aren't watching that makes a difference. That's why what you're doing today, recognizing the good stories, and there's so many bad stories, I went through those. But recognizing the good stories of business leaders and companies that are doing the right thing makes so much of a difference. We as companies, we as communities, and we as a nation cannot survive unless we've got purpose, leaders at the top, and an understanding that indeed relativism isn't right, that there are fundamental truths we have to live by. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. Thank you very much.
Tom, thank you. Tom, thank you. Those were inspiring and thought-provoking. I think it's easy to question ethics, values, intent. In today's political climate, it's tough. The landscape is big. We can't fix it all. But at a grassroots level, we all in this room have the ability to influence, inspire, and motivate positive behavior. We can still get it right, one day at a time, one company at a time, one value at a time. So thank you again, Tom. I'd like to take a quick minute to recognize those companies that have been honored by our award. There are several companies here today. I would ask if, because there's so many, if you are with one of those companies, please stand. If you work for them now, if you're one of the CEOs, there's a lot more in here, please. These companies represent the best of what ethics are. Thank you very much. Give them a round of applause. Now we get to the part you've all been waiting for. We already know the names of the winners, but I want you to know a little bit about them before we acknowledge them. So let's start.
ParkHub is a software technology company that helps connect consumers purchasing parking with parking areas of asset owners. ParkHub was born out of my frustration of 12 years of parking operations management, in which I was measuring my business in X and Y. X amount of vehicles, Y amount of revenue. I began to leverage technology to understand peak ingress, first car in, last car out, in which I created optimization around the parking asset. Park Hub's client base consists of primarily sports entertainment clients across the country, but we have a product offering that services anybody that owns and operates parking. Parking is a very cash-heavy business. In any cash-heavy business, ethics and your moral compass are always challenged. So by way of our tools, we provide a layer of oversight and spotlight into the operations. The people of Park Hub are Park Hub, adhering to our culture and our core values of open and honest, respectful communication. The fact that nobody's above any job. Always exceeding expectations of customers and colleagues. But when you're able to assemble individuals with like minds and common ideals and aspirations, magic happens. And I think that's evident in our traction as well as our client base. To win the Greater Dallas Business Ethics Award, as a founder and a CEO, it's absolutely humbling and honorable. It helps bring certainty that the individuals, thereby the company in which we've assembled, has complete alignment from our core values to our mission.
With that, I'd like to invite George Baker to the podium, please. Congratulations. A well-deserved award. Thank you so much for participating.
Appreciate it. Well, I have to thank the Park Hub team, those that are here, and notably my partners and my leaders, the leadership team, Jake Etzel and Tony Albanese, who helped, starting at the top, our alignment throughout our company. They are unfortunately unable to be here today. They are in New Orleans. I'll be meeting them later. I'd like to further thank, I've got some clients and partners here that are here today for your constant support and your reference-ship. I'd also like to thank the committee and the program for not only educating but challenging the Dallas business community in the values, how values within an organization can help bring alignment, and when you have clear, respectful, honest communication, you and high moral character and integrity, they're the foundations and the cornerstones and the keystones of the organizations, the four walls that we live in. So thank you guys, appreciate it. This is awesome, thank you.
I should note that not everyone wins on their first attempt. And there are many companies who've tried several times and then finally done it. Now, it's not a function of them not being ethical. A lot of times it's a function of just, not filling out a good application. But most of the time it's based on finally getting an understanding of what makes a company ethical. What are the processes and procedures and policies that help a company when the human X factor happens and there's a breach. So we're thankful for all of the companies that continue to apply, and we will be working with them in the future to educate and help them find ways to improve their internal structures and become a more ethical company. With that said, I'd like to introduce our second winner.
Sendero started in 2004 when I got home from a hard day at work, and I walked in and told my wife, I can't do it anymore. I want to start my own business. And she looked at me very confused and concerned. And I looked around and saw my triplets crawling around on the floor and saw the concern in her eyes. And I said, no, I don't mean financially. I just mean emotionally. Will you support me emotionally? And she looked at me and she said, yeah, that's fine. Why don't you go and do that? I really think that what's unique for us is the people we bring and the culture we bring together. We really bring people who are servant leaders focused on serving others, whether that's our clients, our people, our community. But then also it's that culture we bring. Really, I think it's really important. We have a very strong tie to and a maniacal tie to having a values-based culture and a values-based company. And so that's something that's driven us from day one, and we take that very seriously. And I think that makes us very unique. And it's something that we not only preach, but we build in as part of our processes, our systems, our measures, so that way we hold ourselves accountable to that. And really that's what we start with. That's where everything comes from. And a lot of the other things tend to be outcomes of that. And so that's really the start of that, is that values base that we have. I think it starts with being, first of all, a values-based company. When we first started the company, that was one of the things we said from the very beginning. We wanted to be a values-based, values-aligned company. And so ethics are part and parcel to that. And so we always wanted to hold ourselves to a higher standard. Of course, you want to follow the laws and do the normal things that everyone wants to do to stay out of trouble, but we wanted something more than that. We wanted ethics to be more than just about following laws. We wanted it to be about what we believed and doing something that allowed us to take care of our people and our clients and our community in a different way. And we really believe that to have that other focus, it required a set of values and a set of principles that would underlie what we do. And so for us, that's the meaning of ethics to me.
What does it mean for you and your company to be recognized?
First of all, it's an honor to be considered in the same breath with all those other companies. When you look at all the companies that have been honored in the past, it's truly a very big honor and accomplishment for us. The second thing I think is that it's validation for what we've done and where we're headed. And it really serves as something that gives us resolve, added resolve to what we're doing and continuing the path that we're on.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you very much.
First of all, I think I'd like to thank everybody from our companies here for their support and recognizing the vision of where we wanted to go and really pulling together to take that vision and make it real. Put together the processes and the things that really make this thing come to life. So I have a huge debt of gratitude to all of you for everything you've done. All I do is put together a thought and you execute on that thought, and you've executed on the vision beautifully. So thank you. Thank you also to all our friends, our colleagues, our support system, our clients that have joined us today. I appreciate that. And thank you to all of you for being here, because your presence really indicates what you believe. And I really am thankful also to the board for selecting us for this honor. All I can say is that all I've ever wanted to do, and I hope I don't get emotional here, but I really wanted to build a company that stood for something more. And something that we could look to, and it could be a bastion, and really something that stood for something more and represented something more, and was an example to the rest of the community. And this recognition really does that for me. More than any, we've received tons of awards, and so it really means a lot to me. So thank you very much.
Congratulations to both Park Hub and Sendero. Our program would not be where it is today if it weren't for the support of Kerry McGuire. He's a man that embodies the qualities that define principal behavior in business and public service in our personal lives. And as a result, last year, we created the Kerry M. McGuire Spirit of Ethics Award. The purpose of this award is to look at those people who have exhibited above and beyond ethical practices, true champions, true motivators. And I don't think that it could be patterned after any better person. I would like to acknowledge Mr. McGuire, thank him for his support for all of these years. Thank you so much. And with that said, I would like to ask Brett Farrar, please come back up to the stage, because Sendero is the recipient of this year's Kerry McGuire Spirit of Ethics Award.
I don't know what to say. I think I said it all a second ago. But just thank you again. This really does serve as, for me, validation of what we've done, and also validation that it means something. You know, Mr. Lempert, I so loved your speech and everything you said. I was very engaged by that, and this idea of, you know, it's not just all about relativism, and everyone here, I believe, agrees with that. And so, by your presence here and your honoring of me, I'm humbled and thrilled to be a part of it. So thank y'all very much. Appreciate it.
I think in the emotion that we all felt in that response, we can see why they are so deserving. So congratulations to you, congratulations Park Up, thank you all. I would like to take a moment to thank and introduce our other presenting partner this year, and that is the SMU Timberland Advertising Institute. We're very pleased that they've decided to partner with us, and I would like to give the podium to Dr. Steve Edwards.
My name is Steve Edwards. I am the director of the Timberland Advertising Institute at SMU, and we are an institute for education and research. We offer undergrad, graduate, and executive education programs. We host lectures on ethics and responsibility, and our mission is to foster a sense of responsibility in our students and really just try and impact business for the better. So we are so glad to be a partner with the North Texas Ethics Association and just try and impact business in any way we can and support for this mission. The research shows, the academic research shows that ethical business practice is good for business. And recognizing these extraordinary companies is just inspiring today. So way to go. I mean, it's wonderful. I would like to recognize Dr. Carrie LaFurl as one of the judges. She has had years of service for helping judge, and her work in developing ethics certification for advertising agencies and marketing firms. I'd also like to encourage you to reach out to the representatives that are here today from SMU. We've got the Dean of the Meadows School, Sam Holland. We've got Rita Kirk, who's the director of the McGuire Center for Ethics and Public Responsibility. I've got faculty members sitting right here from the Institute who do quite a bit of research in the area of ethics and responsibility. And these professors touch on topics like advertising that encourages saving behavior, or advertising that facilitates the reporting of domestic violence, and even the ethics of digitally retouching models in advertising. And so we're investigating these issues that matter. From what we've seen, there are so many ways to learn about ethical business practices. We have some that are very formal and others that are informal. One of the ones I wanted to highlight is in your brochure by Strata, and the effects of what you can take away if you're looking at what makes ethical business practice. It's a process, and we've heard that. We had principles, perspective, process, context, but it all comes from a service attitude. And it's just inspiring to see Sendero, to see Park Hub, Mayor Lepper. It's fabulous. Just it excites me. I want you all to know that SMU and the North Texas Ethics Association is committed to helping you achieve your goals. Please reach out to us for advice, for resources, for anything you need to help you institutionalize ethics at your organization. I'm so excited about this initial partnership and what we see in the future. In closing, I'd just like us to once again recognize also the judges for today's awards, the students who participated, and especially Michael Webb for his tireless efforts at raising the visibility of ethics and business ethics. So thank you all.
I echo their enthusiasm at our partnership, and I look forward to the educational opportunities that we're going to be able to bring to the business community. With that, I would thank you all again for sharing this today. I hope you continue to work to create a workplace that promotes values and ethical behavior, and stay ethical out there. We'll see you next year. Thank you all.